Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast Reflections of the Father's Heart. I'm super excited for our guest today, my guest. And I'm really excited because this is someone that has actually helped me a lot on my physical journey. And we're going to talk a lot about that. But I just want to welcome Dr. David Diehl. He is a chiropractor. He does functional nutrition, and he's really all about the way that God made our bodies. So welcome, Dr. Diehl. It's great to have
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited that you're here. So why don't we start, if you can just fill us in a little bit on your practice, how long you've been practicing, your family, where you live, and then we'll dive into some content.
Okay, great. Well, this is like a second career for me. I've been practicing for 27 years. Prior to that, I graduated in film and production, but it took a lot of browbeating from God to get me to where my purpose was. When I was a kid, I had this theory of mind, body, spirit, and I didn't know what that meant. But as I became a stronger believer and Christian, my purpose and mission became really, really clear, and that's to help other people realize that you're not just 100% spirit. You have a body, you have a mind, and they all work together and they affect each other.
That is amazing. It's amazing too, because like I said, so Dr. Diehl is my chiropractor and he's done wonders for me. So it's definitely your purpose. I mean, I can totally see it because I know you have to go through a lot of training to become a doctor of chiropractic, but you also have like an intuitive kind of Holy Spirit led way that you also adjust. Like I notice, because there's just things that you're able to see and to pick up that I just feel like God is really working through you. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you, because it's
Oh,
just
well,
been
thank you.
phenomenal. Yeah.
And I think that's what I didn't understand. And I think that's what a lot of people may not understand about how the body heals and functions. The word doctor, people think it means healer, but that's not what it means. The word doctor means teacher. So if I can teach you about your body and how it works and how it functions, then things work right. But the thing is, I don't heal anybody. What we do is we remove any kind of interference, whether it be you work with remove the mental interference, the physical, the neurological interference, and the remove the deficiencies, and then the body can work the way God made it. God made the body. God heals the body. It doesn't. If we heal from the inside out, it doesn't come from a pill, a potion. Even a piece of broccoli doesn't heal. But what happens is your brain and nervous system take that information and do the best thing for your body. Hopefully that
Wow.
makes
I feel
sense.
like we could camp right there. That
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
just
huge.
to hear, because when I would think of the word doctor, I would think of healer. I
Right.
wouldn't have thought doctor meaning teacher, but that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
It's interesting because, before we started recording, Dr. Diehl and I were talking about the scripture in the Bible that talks about loving the Lord your God with all of your heart and soul and mind and strength. And I talk about that one a lot when it comes to just healing, like healing from traumas and pain and all that kind of stuff, because I feel like a lot of times believers don't realize that part of sanctification is healing. It is the emotional healing, the soul healing, the mind healing. But I do realize and see that a lot of people really miss the strength part. And when I think of strength, I think it's our body, our talents, our abilities. Because if I am not healthy physically, how am I going to be walking fully in my purpose and fully able to love God? So I really feel like what you bring is a missing component to what a lot of believers really miss. A lot of people really miss when it comes to our bodies.
Yeah, that's entirely completely true. I like the way that you laid that out there. But you know, God gave us a spirit, but He gave us a body. It's His greatest creation, right? It's a perfect creation. We're made in the image of God, but so many people treat their body terribly. I mean, they treat their pets better. They treat their cars better than they do their own body. And over time, disease builds up because it doesn't get what it needs. And so people understand that you're not your diagnosis. There's a cause, there's a reason for everything. And you talked about pain.
Yeah.
Pain is a good thing. So people think pain is a bad thing. I got to get rid of it. But pain is a warning signal saying there's something wrong. So instead of like investigating and finding the cause of what's causing that, which is really protecting you, like when a baby puts its hand on a hot stove, it doesn't have the intelligence, oh, I need to take my hand off. No, that pain protects that hand. And pain protects you and tells you there's something wrong. But in America, what do? We mask that with either a medication. Nothing wrong with medications for emergencies, but the way we use them in the United States, we mask the pain, and the disease continues to build until it progresses, and then it gets worse, and then now they become their diagnosis. And you're not your diagnosis. God made your body. He can heal your. God can heal you of anything if He wants to. So it takes self-discipline physically, but it also takes prayer and faith in Him. He'll heal you on your time. And I used to struggle with this. I don't want to go off on a tangent too much, but I used to think, well, what about somebody that has terminal cancer and dies, and somebody that has these terrible things, and they've been asking God to heal them. Well, we have a perfect body in heaven. So maybe they're healed and they're prepared for heaven. So, we don't understand everything that's going on and the purposes of God, but everything works together for His purposes. And there's a proverb that says that the way of man may seem right, but it can lead to death. And so we have to wake up.
Well, I remember there's like one of the things I've appreciated about going into your waiting room. You always have these really profound signs, in the waiting room. And just what you said about the difference between being preventative versus being on pills. First of all, it's a different life, right? When you're really realizing the way that God made your body.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, if we're just grabbing pills, like I use the same kind of analogy when I talk about emotional healing or mental healing or soul healing. I use the same analogy, where if you're just going to mask it, then it's going to come out sideways. It's going to come out some way, because God didn't make us to hold all that stuff inside. And
That's
it's
exactly
the
right.
same physically.
Oh yeah, and it all works. So if you're physically in pain and you're not sleeping and you feel terrible, how does that affect your mind, right? And so here's the other thing. If your mind, if you're putting garbage into your head, and if you've got problems that you're not correcting the cause of, like you talked about, it creates stress in the body. And what stress does is it makes too much cortisol, which produce hormones that actually destroy your immune system and break down your body faster. We need a balance. You need some cortisol, but we need a balance of rest and digest and fight and flight. We need a balance of that parasympathetic nervous system to the sympathetic nervous system, and your body's ability to adapt. And so that's one thing chiropractic does. It's resets your nervous system and lets your body adapt to that. So does that help people's minds? Absolutely. They come in stressed. They get an adjustment. They go from that sympathetic stress, fight and flight, to a parasympathetic. Now their body can heal, because that's when your body heals, is that in that parasympathetic when you're sleeping. You need to sleep because that's when your body heals. A lot of people skip that part. That's when your brain detoxes. I mean, I could do a whole workshop just on sleep, but again, all these factors, health is multifactorial, right? It's mind, body, and spirit, but you can take the mind and dissect it in a million different things, or the body and dissect it in a million different things. But I've just met so many people that find their purpose, even pastors. I've met so many pastors. I'm really committed to helping pastors with their health, because their job is the most important job. But what happens is they have a lot of stress. They have a lot of different stress because they have a lot of things happening, and their job is that important. But what gets skipped a lot of times is taking care of their temple, their body. In 2 Corinthians 6:20, it says, honor God with your body. It says that. It doesn't say, spend all your time in the spirit. It says honor God with your body. So we have to be disciplined to do different things.
And you're right. There's so many different ways, like legs, that we could talk about, because there's so many factors. But going back to even what you talked about with the nervous system, how did God make our nervous system? Like, what is the job and role of our nervous system in our bodies?
That's really interesting you say that, because the body, again, it's a masterpiece of God. When two cells come together, and 9 months later, there's trillions and trillions of cells that work perfectly together. It's just a mind-blowing miracle. But you ask how the nervous system plays a part of that. Well, when the two cells come together in 8 days after conception, 8 days, the brain and the spinal cord are formed. It's called the primitive nodule and the primitive streak. First thing formed. That's before most women have no idea that they're pregnant. The brain and the spinal cord are formed. Now, in 18 days after conception, all these wires come off. Those are your nerves. Those are your spinal nerves. At the end of this nerve grows a heart, and in this nerve grows a kidney, and this nerve grows a toenail. The body has that innate intelligence, that God-given wisdom to do that. It just doesn't randomly happen. And so the first thing that's formed is the nervous system. When you die, what's the last thing that quits working? So your heart quits working, they can do a heart transplant, right? Right? They can do kind of any kind of transplant, but they haven't figured out a brain transplant. The last thing that clinically works is your brain. So from the cradle to the grave to the womb to the tomb, that nervous system runs and animates our body. And what a lot of people don't understand is, of all the nerves, and there's millions of nerves in your body that are running and animating, controlling digestion, your immune system, your circadian rhythm, your sleeping patterns, your hormones, your healing. But of all those nerves, only 6% are pain fibers. So how do you know if you have a nerve problem? We have a body armor called the spine. We have a skull and 24 vertebrae. If you imagine 24 donuts and the nerves coming down between there and splitting off to the different organs and tissues of the body, that's there to protect that nervous system. When those bones get misaligned and pinch those nerves, if it's not hitting a pain fiber, what if it's not hitting it? That's even worse. You could feel great if it's pinching a nerve to your heart and your heart's not functioning right. And now you're on medications for your heart, but it's a nerve problem. How do you know that? So again, when I talk about these conditions, chiropractic doesn't cure anything. Neither does medicine. What heals is that power that God put inside your body, but that power needs to get to each cell. So what I tell patients is, I move the bone, God does the healing. So, we say that we need a clear nervous system, then we need to put God-made foods in our body. We need to move. We need to exercise, because oxygen is a very important element to our body, and we need to exercise to expand our arteries and get that oxygen everywhere. We need to be aware in this country, because there's so many toxins. There's 3,000 additives, colorings, flavorings, and foods that are cancer-causing toxins to the body. So we have to be smart about what we put in our body, so our bucket doesn't overflow with toxins. And we need to have that. We need to put good stuff in our mind. We need to put like that positive stuff. That's why we, be transformed by renewing your mind. It didn't, we don't, all these things are habits and lifestyle, right? You don't go to church once and accept Jesus and never go to church again, right? You keep going, right? So you don't get your spine adjusted and live a lifestyle where you're lifting, sleeping wrong, and doing those things and never get adjusted again. It's something you want to do for the rest of your life. You don't eat a good salad once and it's, hey, I'm healthy now. No, these are healthy habits that we want to do, and they're easy to do, but it's just a matter of programming it into your daily routine. So
what you said about 8 days after conception blew my mind. I didn't know that. I mean, I had no idea. And so when that scripture that you shared about honoring God with our bodies, that really came to life for me when you shared that, because I thought, oh my gosh, first of all, that is 100% supernatural. It is 100% God that would happen in that way in 8 days, that we'd form those things in 8 days before a woman would even know that they're pregnant. If God masterfully created our bodies in that way, of course he would want us to honor him with our bodies. And in honoring him and honoring how he made us, it also helps us to live more for him, right? In a more healthy way. Like, it benefits us, obviously, to do that.
Right.
But just that piece, to me, it blows me away. I had no idea.
Yeah. And it's not about even longevity. God made us to live 100, 120 years, and there's people that do that. And, it doesn't matter how long I live. I don't care, because I know where I'm going. It's a better place. But God gave you a mission. He gave me a mission to do, but we need our bodies to get to A to B. And so we need to be healthy. So it's not how long I live, but it's the quality of life and being effective for the Lord, because I have the energy to help other people. You've seen me in the office. I'm really trying to serve as many people in this community as possible. And I'm trying to think of ways okay, I want to hire more doctors. We just talked about that. I want to bring in
Yeah.
more doctors and really educate our community what's going on. There's a lot of people just in a mile radius of my office that are suffering with migraines, headaches, sciatica, for years. And they come in and they think it's a miracle. And it's no, it's not a miracle. You should have been in my office 10 years ago, but no one told you. So I take personal responsibility for that. It's, I have to get out there and tell people not everybody cares about their health. Not everybody will do anything, but a lot of people really want to get well. And they've tried everything except looking internal, removing that nerve interference from their spine, removing what you do is the misalignments in the mind to get that clear so the body can heal and function as well too. So it's just so multifactorial, and it seems like a lot, but it's really simple. It's really common sense stuff.
Well, I mean, and I think about what you're saying about, yes, when you're in the office and I see you, you're going, and you're on for every person. It's not like I've ever had an interaction with you where you're just like low energy or anything like that. Do you mind sharing your age?
I don't mind at all. I'm 62. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I would never know that.
Well, see, most chiropractors, it's a very physical job, and
Yeah.
so a lot of chiropractors retire because they have to, not because they want to. Why would I ever want to retire? Why would I ever want to stop doing this? When I get to see God's healing power in front of me, when people are like suffered with something and it goes away in a week, and it's just keeps me going. I mean, it gets me out of bed in the morning. It's amazing the miracles we see with the babies getting well. It's funny, last week I just adjusted my oldest patient for her birthday, 96. And she was so happy. She got up and she started dancing with me. She started dancing. Well, it wasn't an extreme dance, but it was a little shuffle that she was just, just felt a lot better because her body was healing and functioning better. So it's like, I have to be intentional about taking care of my body. It doesn't just happen. I see people come to my office that are 10, 20 years younger than me that can't do the physical things that I can do just because no one taught them. Not their fault. They could. The body's amazing. You can turn your body around. As long as you're alive and you have a breath, you have the ability. And you've heard of that. You've heard of people like didn't care about their health, had a massive heart attack, got the wake up call. They start eating better. They start moving. They start getting their adjustments, and their body's just transformed. And that's to see that. It's so cool. It's so cool to see that.
Well, and like you said, it's so important because one of the things that you talk about in your workshops is we either do it now or we pay later. The
That's right.
thing with our bodies is if we don't take care of them now, or if, like you said, if we don't get to a point where we're like, okay, no, I need to do this, I need to get better habits, then at some point it's, we're going to be
Yeah.
having exorbitant medical expenses. Because I've heard people say, well, it costs money to eat healthy. And it's true, it does, but I think it costs a lot more if you don't.
Well, that's right. I saw a piece of research that said that people spend a third of their lifetime income. Think of your third of your lifetime income in the last 3 weeks of their life. My
Wow.
my grand my grandparents died in their sleep. That's how we're supposed to die. We're supposed to like lay down, go to heaven. But how many people now? 2 out of 3 people in the United States die of heart disease and cancer. These are lifestyle diseases. 5% of it's genetic, yeah, but epigenetic says that you trigger the good genes and the bad genes with lifestyle. And so
Yes.
the reason I think a lot of people don't do anything about it is because they don't think it's going to happen to them. They think they have time. They don't think they're going to get that unexpected heart attack or that unexpected diagnosis of diabetes or that unexpected diagnosis of cancer. They don't know. So what I try to teach people is live as if you have the disease now so you don't get it tomorrow.
Which is
Create those
so.
habits now
Mhm.
so you don't get it tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
and that's so wise.
yeah, that's the why. And again, we're doing it not for ourselves, but to what purpose God put us on this planet for. And so we need that body to get to A to B. We need that physical body. We need to keep our minds transformed and keep stay in the spirit.
Well, and like you said too about the body being able to rejuvenate, I have a very like intense story. My abuse story is very intense. And there was a time
Mm,
before I knew Jesus, I was a meth addict like for 3.5 years straight.
mm,
And that does really horrible things, by the way, to your body, your appearance, all that kind of stuff. Now, nobody would ever look at me now and think that, but
Right.
it, and yes, there's been a lot of the healing as far as emotionally and mentally, but even physically doing what you've said. I did a lot of detoxes. I did a lot of, and I still will. I still do, we'll do detoxes on a, not all the time, obviously, but frequently enough.
Right.
I'm out walking or hiking every morning. I'm in the gym like 4 times a week and I lift weights. But, you know, I'm like 53. So when I go into I had to go to the doctor one time, this is a while back. And I remember the doctor going, "You're not on any medication." And I'm like, "No." And he was surprised that I wasn't on medication. At the time, I was maybe 49. And I think about that and I'm like, wow, I was an exception for him, not the norm. Granted, he's seeing people that are, probably showing up with
Right.
certain diseases like what you're talking about. But yes, that lifestyle that I have, it's time. I have to carve out time. I get up earlier so that I can do that routine in the
Right.
morning. I, am more intentional about the foods. I have regular adjustments, chiropractor adjustments. I'm seated a lot. I need, I need to come in and get adjustments, but I'm also able to do more because of it. So I think this is such an important topic.
Yeah, and I think one of the topics you touched on was a morning routine, because what happens is everybody is busy, everybody has stress, but it's a fair game. Everybody has 24 hours in a day, and it's how
Mhm.
you use those. So what happens is a lot of people think, "Oh, I'm gonna work out tomorrow. I'll do that after I get my stuff done." Never happens. Or I'm gonna pray tomorrow. It never happens. You need to, like, for me personally, the stuff for to feed my spirit, to feed my body, to plan my day. The first thing in the morning is about taking care of those habits, because life is going to take you off. I can have all the great intentions of working out in the afternoon, but it's not going to happen. Something's going to come up. There's going to be an emergency situation or whatever. But if I can get up early and just block out, time in the morning to,
Yes.
we call it spiritual triathlon. You read, you pray, you study the Bible, you do your stretches, you do your workout, you plan and prepare what food you're going to eat that day. So you just don't succumb to the stresses of that day. And then, what does the Bible say? It says, put on the armor of God. It talks about, putting on the helmet, putting on the shield and everything, and be prepared, because the arrows are coming at you. It's the stress. I mean, Satan would love to have everybody really busy and everybody on drugs, because it
Wow.
separates you from the spirit. So we have to battle against it. It's a battle. It just clearly says it all over the scriptures that it's a battle. It's not against flesh and blood. It's spiritual warfare that we have to deal with.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I think sometimes we can think of spiritual warfare like that scripture. It's against the prince and principalities in the heavenly realms. Like, okay, it's against these, dark forces, which is true. But I think we can miss sometimes the ways in which those dark forces come against us. Like,
Yeah.
I think about even food. You can walk into a store and think you're buying something that is a health food product
Right.
that is actually laced with, well, laced isn't maybe the right word, but ingredient wise
Yeah.
doesn't have the best ingredients. So I
Right.
think, like you're saying, that awareness is so key.
Oh yeah. God made our bodies. We talked about God making our bodies perfect,
Yeah.
but he made food for our bodies. And so man has altered that food. Again, there's a proverb that says, a way that seems right to man, but the end leads in death. It's great for shelf life, but the longer the shelf life, the shorter your life. And so what happens is we teach our patients to read ingredients. We don't count calories or those types of things, but we want to make sure that's a God made material, the closest the way God made it. You don't put you put gasoline in your car. You don't put orange juice in your car, right? It has to have gasoline. And so you can't put a fake food in your body and expect not to have consequences. Those toxins build up, and then you have these problems.
And is that what happens? Is that if I'm eating something, I love what you said, by the way, about the longer the shelf life, the shorter your life. That I'm going to keep that one. That's really
Good.
good. Is that what happens then if I'm ingesting things that have a long shelf life? Then because of what they've put in the foods to increase the shelf life, it actually, those things they build up in the cells of my body. Is that what happens?
Right. Your body does the right thing at the right time. So if you're putting toxins in your body and you don't know it, what your body does is it takes the toxins and puts it in a fat cell. People actually you can get fatter from Diet Coke because it's a toxin. So your body tries to protect you. So it's putting it in a fat cell. And so even though it doesn't have calories, it's a toxin. Your body cannot process it. So it stores it. So now you have all these toxins stored and you don't have any symptoms. You can't smell the toxins. You can't see the toxins. You don't know they're there, but they build up. So over time, I feel great. I feel great. I feel great. But your bucket starts to fill. Your body can only get rid of toxins at a certain rate through your liver, your kidneys, and sweating is a great way to get rid of toxins. But if you're not working out, you're not sweating. So it accumulates. Finally, that's why a lot of people have skin problems because your liver can't process it fast enough. So it pushes it out your skin. Your body's doing the right thing at the right time. So they have all these skin problems and rashes, stomach problems because your stomach is the same thing. It destroys the lining of your stomach. Now they have all these gut issues, and you can try to fix the gut all you want, but unless you remove the toxins, you're in trouble. So it becomes very complicated and multifactorial. And so we teach patients to support the body so it can detox naturally, but also minimize toxins going in, because when your bucket overflows, now you've got all these symptoms and these bad diagnoses, and it's tougher to fix, honestly, once your bucket overflows.
And that's a lot of times when people seek you, is because their bucket has overflowed and they don't know and nothing else is working.
Right.
Probably.
Conventional medicine doesn't work because no one's looking at those different things. They're not looking at the interference neurologically, with toxicity or vitamin deficiencies. Because like when you had your problem with the drugs, your body was not only not getting nutrition, but it was depleting it at rapid paces, trying to protect you, so you're using up all those elements. But again, you can turn that around.
Completely. And to your point about the skin, when I was using meth, it's you're putting pure toxin in your body. I mean, that's what it is. It's the drug itself is so toxic. My skin was horrible. I mean, talk about like exactly what you're saying, like my skin was horrible. But that's an obvious one because it's like, well, clearly meth is a terrible drug. But a lot of times I don't think people realize there's foods and things that they're ingesting. Like you talked about diet soda or, even other foods that are marketed as health foods, but actually have other things put in them to reduce calories, but lengthen shelf life and increase taste, that are still the same as putting toxins in your
Right.
body.
Yeah. The FDA has allowed small amounts of poisons in those additives, flavorings, and colorings that are known cancer causing agents. But hey, if you put a little bit, it's not going to do it. They don't take into account of the accumulation of it building up. They just say, oh, if you eat that, it won't kill you. No, it won't kill you. But if you keep eating it, you're gonna be toxic, and then you're gonna have a problem. So it's we really have to pay attention. I mean, it's really simple. You want to get back to God made foods, the way it's most naturally made, and the more it's processed, like I said, the worse it is for your body.
And in taking in those processed foods is also stressful for your body.
It is. Well, number one, it puts toxicity in your body, but secondly, you don't get the nutrition that you're looking for. You don't get the B vitamins. Your body needs to convert the fats, the carbohydrates, and the protein into energy, which is called ATP, that your body uses for energy. But if it doesn't have those, if there's things missing in the Krebs cycle to break it down, you're never making that so you're fatigued all the time. So now you're putting other toxins in your body to try to stimulate your body, or medications that stimulate your body, and now you become malnutrition, and it's, like I said, it's a vicious cycle, and it becomes very complicated. But it's easy to fix if you start eliminating those. And there's people out there that might say, well, I can't get off this because now I do have type 2 diabetes, or I do have this. So what we don't just take people off medications, and we don't just say, okay, don't eat anything anymore and just eat broccoli for the rest of your life. We make lateral changes. So we look at their diet and say, okay, I know what you like to eat. One of the worst things is vegetable oils, because it's rancid to the body and it causes inflammation of the body. So you can eat the same meal, but let's cook with avocado oil now, or extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil. We'll make lateral switches so you can still eat and still have the food you want, but now it's not toxic. It's actually nutrition. Now you're going to have more energy to heal and function. That's better. And, so we want to look at all those different things and just, help people just in baby steps get 1% better every day.
And do you find that even those baby steps make a difference for people?
Huge difference. Again, it's like
Wow.
when somebody comes in, I mean, they may, to my office, they may have like neurological problem, a gut problem, nutritional deficiencies. We just take one step at a time. So let's say, okay, you've got major nerve issues. You've got sciatica, so you can't walk, or you've got headaches, so you can't sleep. Let's correct that nerve interference and get you past that symptom. We want to help. We want you to pass that symptom. Okay, now you're past that symptom. Now let's talk about nutrition. Okay, let's talk about, maybe we need to do a lab test for your gut. Maybe we need to, but it's overwhelming if you try to fix everything at once. But what's the most direct effect on your health? It's that nervous system. I mean, it takes you from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic instantly. And you've experienced that in the office.
Yeah. Definitely. And to your point, that the adjustments with diet combined with really implementing practices to help my nervous system stay calm. Like I really went after that as well. Like all of that together was a game changer because I was having headaches. I was having migraines every single week. And to try to do what I was doing. And I still had some, I had a lot of healthy practices even at that time, but being able to get the adjustments on a regular basis, that made a huge, huge difference. Also the eating, but also just really working on, like I'd done a lot of healing, but just working on my thinking and my faith and, like, no, I'm going to trust God with this instead of fixating and worrying about things. All of that together made a huge difference. I love what you said, how it's so multifaceted. It really is. But what I want people to hear is you could do all the other things and that's awesome. Like, yes, your life with Jesus, number one, that's awesome. You can do that. And, you could be going after your stress levels and that kind of thing. But if you're not also focusing just on your physical health, you will still end up living a life and not being able to do everything that God has called you to do. I think the health piece, which is why I feel like you're so important and your message is so important, is vastly missing.
I do too. I agree with that 100%. And again, you laid it out really nicely. It's God first, and we're taking care of our body, not for vain reasons, but so we can do our purpose, so we can be usable by God, so we're healthy and we can do the things that He wants us to do. And God can use us in our sickness too. I'm not saying He can't do that. Sure. He can use us in our weakness. He can use us in any way. But if you jump off a 10-story building and you say, God save me, He can. But does He always? He also gave us a brain, and He also gave us rules on this earth called gravity. There's principles that we need to follow. Wow. So yes, God can heal anything, but again, we don't understand why He heals different people in different ways. But I don't want to be I don't want to be jumping off that building. I want to use my brain too. So yes, if I spend a little bit more on organic foods and I can save my money on health insurance or running to the doctor to get poked and prodded and that type of thing, I really think it saves you a lot of money by taking care of by creating those habits. I mean, I haven't been to the medical doctor. I can't remember the last time. My son, it's funny, my kids, they went through, my son has never had a medication, nothing. He had only a topical for stitches once. He's never had an aspirin or a Tylenol or anything. He's never had a vaccination. He's had none of that stuff. That's a whole nother topic, but his classmates didn't believe him. Oh, no, you've had to have had a drug. You've had to have had a vaccination. It's like, no. And he's healthier than his peers. That's the funny thing. So people are just, even kids, they're just like trained. No. You have to have drugs to survive. And, thank God for drugs for emergencies, but it shouldn't be our first go-to.
No. And I appreciate you sharing that because it's reminding me, I have a good friend whose mother lived to be 103. And she was the first woman to ever go through UCLA's program to be a pharmacist. So she was the first woman. There were lots of men that
Yeah.
went before, but she was the first woman. And she always told him, only take medicine if you absolutely have to. And she was a pharmacist.
Yeah.
So she lived her whole life that way. Now, she died at 103. She did have dementia, but physically, she was fine. She didn't take any medication up till the day that she died. She
That's
was
amazing.
medicine free. So she wasn't on medication. And yet she was in the field. So she said exactly what you're saying. She's like, for emergencies, yes. But as a lifestyle, no. Because if you
Right.
do it as a lifestyle, then you're going to have a less than life. Like you said, it shouldn't be your go-to. Like when I was getting really bad migraines, there were times, yes, I was taking Tylenol or I was taking medication for it. But what I started to notice is that the next day, my body would be really swollen. It was like it was trying to get rid of these toxins. It would bother my stomach. And so I just thought there has to be a better way than this. And now, once in a great while, if I let my stress levels get too high, I might get a headache or I might get a migraine. They're very, very infrequent though. But what I have learned to do is, hey, maybe my body's telling me to stop and to rest. So I stop and I rest. I don't take anything. And I recover just as quickly, but I don't have all that stuff trying to make its way out of my body. I feel much better. And I've just learned maybe I should just listen versus let me do this so I can push through.
Yeah.
So I love that you've done that and that your son gets to have that experience because he gets to live life really healthy.
Yes. Yeah. He's doing great. And and what you said about that too is like a lot of people like, no, you don't understand. I have to take this medication for the rest of my life. Well, maybe not. I encourage those people to keep searching, keep looking. Maybe it's you've just done the conventional way. Maybe you need to look at toxicity. Maybe you need to look at chiropractic. Maybe you need to look at nutrition. There's lab tests that can tell you, instead of just taking a bunch of vitamins, there's lab tests that tells you exactly what you're deficient in. It's called
Mm.
biomarkers, and it'll tell you what you need. And so I just encourage people, just keep looking, keep searching, keep praying about it, and you never know. If you find the cause and then correct the cause.
Yeah, it's to your point, like you said, even about the toxins. There's a book called Heal Your Headache where this doctor wrote about the buildup of certain things, and he listed all these different things that it was exactly what you talked about in your workshop, how it builds up. And for people that maybe more easily get headaches or migraines, he talked about you could eat a food one time and it may not affect you. But if you eat it again and again, it's building, like the toxins build up and then it'll trigger like a migraine. It's exactly what you're saying. And so why not just, like you said, find the route that really works for you? And I love what you said too. If we can pull on the wisdom of God, we can ask him and he will show us. Like I feel like that was, when I was praying, God led me to you. And because your philosophy is, hey, I'm not here to heal you, but I'm here to teach you
Yeah.
and help your body to heal itself. It worked. Like,
Yeah.
it worked. And now I function much better and I'm much more able to do what God has called me to do,
Yeah.
which is to be with people in really heavy emotional things. But I'm able to do that a lot more effectively because I
Right.
feel so much better.
And it's like we started with, we're mind, body, and soul. So if you want to get healthy physically, pray and ask God what you should do.
Yeah.
Ask God to like take away the temptation of eating 3 brownies, you know, for lunch. Ask God to, help you. Maybe you need to fast and really get in the spirit so he can help you physically or mentally or whatever. So I mean, I think that's really where it starts. But some people, like you said in the beginning, they skip they do the spirit thing. They pray, but praying without action is not having faith. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
it's biblical. It's just like you can know it, but if you don't act on it, it's like it never happened. And so we also have to take action, and that's a biblical principle as well. So you pray for it, but then you have faith that's going to happen, and then you take action. You take that first step.
Definitely. And there was something else that I wanted to mention too, Dr. Deal, that you had said when we were talking in the office, because there's some crossover between what I do and what you do, which is really, really cool. I mean, I would
Absolutely.
love for clients while they're walking through, processing emotional things to also be able to come and get chiropractic care, because I think the two just go hand in hand. But I remember there was a day when you said emotional subluxations feel different than physical ones.
Right.
So can you explain that a little
Yeah.
bit? Because I thought that was really profound.
Well, I talked about the bone getting out of place, causing nerve interference, and three things cause that, and we call it the three T's: thoughts, traumas, and toxins. So the
Mhm.
toxins can, stiffen your body up, and you know that when you were on the drugs, it just really had a devastating effect physically on your body. And traumas, we understand: falling, sleeping wrong, bad posture, accidents, sporting injuries, those things a lot of people think for chiropractic. But I see patients, some of the hardest patients to fix are the ones with the thoughts. When those can affect the body again, physically, chemically, in a very, very bad way. And I see patients with emotional thoughts really, really have a devastating effect on their bodies. And, I've had people come in where I give them the first adjustment and they start crying, and
Mhm.
they don't know why, but it just releases everything. Things were just kind of caught up there, and it just reset the nervous system, and it just released something emotionally in their body, and they're embarrassed. They're like, and I'm like, no, it happens all the time. It's people laugh, people like cry, not because they're in pain, because they just feel a release. They just feel their body just relaxing, and it really all goes together. And it's something where somebody will come in and I'll get them to a maintenance level, and they may be coming in like once or twice a month, and then all of a sudden they start coming in once a week, and I'm like, did you fall? No. Are you sleeping right? Are you doing your exercises? Yes, they're doing everything right. Finally I go, is there something traumatic happening in your life? And they're like, oh yeah, my mom's in hospice, or
Mhm.
something emotional happened, and it just wrecks their body, so they're coming in, they just need more care then. So again, it's not cookie cutter. Sometimes we need more of something,
Mhm.
and sometimes we're okay. We go through periods of ebbs and flows through our lifetime, because it's not if stress is going to happen, it's just when. And so we just need to be prepared and have those habits in place,
Mhm.
and know how to like take care of it mentally, and know how to take care of it physically, and know how to go to God, crying to God and asking him for help, because he's there all the time for us.
Most definitely. And to your point, because one of the things that I talk about a lot in the grief world too is, even our emotions are processed in the body. So if things are being held in the body, there's a physical impact. And again, that's why, like you said, it's so multifaceted. It all goes together. At the same time, if I just am going after, like, okay, I'm going to get emotionally healthy, that's awesome. But if there's been physical effects in the body, you still need to go after it physically. And I love what you said, though. Sometimes it's vice versa.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
my body's out of sync and out of alignment, and I'm not taking care of my body, and now that's affecting
Right.
my mood and how I
Yeah.
feel and how I interact. It can
Exactly.
go either
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And you say, oh, you're always on in the office. Well, that's intentional. I plan for that. I have times of rest. When I get up and when I'm driving to the office, I don't always mentally like am ready to take care of people. So what do? I do something physical to affect my mind. So what do? I play music. I'll play like worship music, and then I'm ready to be the healer. I'm ready to like have God work through me. I'm not the healer. God's the healer. But you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's like I can only do that physical job if I'm mentally right. That there's no way I can go in the office and do what I do without having this, because my body follows my mind. So I have to put good stuff into my mind, and I have to like revisit my purpose and just leave my personal crap outside, and the problems outside. That's kind of my therapy, is take care of other people. It's just like I could have the world crushing me, but if I go to the office and start helping people, I am great. I am on cloud nine. It's so if anybody's out there and they're really struggling, go serve. Man, it helps me more, probably more than it does my patients. It just to see those miracles. And just to talking to you right now, I'm just like, just thinking about all the things that God has done and he can do. And it's just amazing. So,
It is so amazing. And it's like what you do is so beautiful, and same with what I get to do too. When you see God
yes.
impact so many different lives, it's amazing. And I think I'm gonna like bring it back to that scripture as we, go into closing, the scripture about loving the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Again, I think a lot of people come to Jesus, which is amazing, and their spirit is completely renewed and transformed and seated with Christ. But that scripture really calls us into also bringing the other parts of us into into communion with the Holy Spirit. Like Galatians 5 talks about the battle between the flesh and the spirit,
Mhm.
which the flesh is actually parts of us that are not under the unction of the Holy Spirit. And again, I just bringing it back to, I think, for anybody listening, you loving God with your strength and your body and doing the steps that you need to take to do that is not selfish. It's biblical. It's a calling. Like Dr. Diehl said, we're not doing it for vanity purposes. We're doing it, one, if I'm going to be, you know, out there as a light in the world, it's hard to do that when I've got a ton of, bricks on my body and I'm not able to really move and do the things that I want. I think the enemy can take us out a lot of times with poor health. So I just wanted to speak that out there. And I love what you said about taking the first step. So let me ask you, Dr. Dill, as we close, if somebody is listening and maybe they're inspired or maybe they're like, okay, I feel a little overwhelmed, what would be a great first step? And I get it would be different for everybody, but like what are some small things or some steps that people can take to start living this way in a better way?
Well, I think that, again, I really think it all starts in the mind.
Mm,
And so what you focus on, you become. So if it's nutrition, start reading something you trust, reading or listening to podcasts on nutrition and get it into your mind and slowly change. It just takes time, and it's just the
mm,
little by little increments that we talked about. If you're not exercising and that's the area that you want, then you're like, well, I can't really go to the gym because I'm hurting, or maybe you're just walking, maybe it's just walking. Well, I can't walk very far. Okay, walk around the house. Make it a goal to walk around the block in a month. It's just, baby steps. If you can't walk, then you crawl, like Martin Luther King said. If it's like, hey, well, maybe I have nerve interference. He's talking about that. I've never checked that out before, but I don't know if I want that. I get checked. You don't have to get adjusted. You may not need it, but you probably do. Go get an examination and sit down with a chiropractor. And there's chiropractors all over the world right now, so there's no excuse. They're everywhere. And sit down and see if there's any kind of nerve interference. If there's
mm.
nerve interference, it doesn't matter what you eat. If there, it's not going to fix that bone being out of place. You need to physically do that. If you think you might have toxicity, go get tested. Go get tested. Study it, but just be careful. Don't be a Google doctor. Don't just have a lot, because a lot of my patients come in and they just get scared. They have like a symptom. They look on Google. They see the worst types of diagnosis. And they think, oh, I think I have that. And then what happens is fear creeps in. So it all boils down to this: you've got to have faith instead of fear. Whatever your condition is, you have to have faith instead of fear. So we go to God first, and then we intelligently research it. But the whole thing is stay out of the fear bucket, and stay in the faith, stay in the spirit, and then God will give you the answers. He'll direct you to the right stuff to read. He'll direct you to the right doctor or the right test. He will, he's the healer. He knows what you need more than any doctor on earth knows what you need. So stay in the spirit, have faith instead of fear, and that's my advice.
That is awesome. Thank you for that. That is such great advice. And so just so everybody knows, and I'm going to definitely put your links and everything in the copy so people can connect with you. But your office is, it's Westlake, right? Westlake, Thousand Oaks, California.
Thousand Oaks area, yeah.
Yeah. And if somebody doesn't live, like if somebody lives in California but they're not in Thousand Oaks, are people still able to contact you for like nutrition and things like that?
Yes, we can do things over Zoom and over mail and things like that. Yeah, it's not a problem. And then
Awesome.
we can also find a like-minded chiropractor in their area. referred a lot of people to like even out of state. If they're listening to this, we can help with
Oh,
that.
that's amazing. Okay. Well, I will make sure all of your contact info is there for
Great.
everyone.
Great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for being on. I gleaned so much from today, so I'm super
Well, good. Well,
excited.
thanks for doing what you do. There's a lot of people who need you. So we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.